right. I'm going to try this whole video essay review thing again. So last night's Drinking Liberally meetup was chocked full of presenters. There were four, if I didn't miscount, three running in different districts for city council, and then the final about the APS school board elections. So I'll talk about each of them, but I live in District 6. I was really excited to hear about Abel and what he hopes and thinks he can do in the district. But I'll address them each individually and try and keep the video relatively succinct. So the first presenter was Idalia Lechuga Tenya from District 8, which I believe is the Northeast Heights. Not where I live. They have their own set of issues, I'm sure. She was talking about how it's been a historically Republican district. Not very surprising to me. Strong supporter of nonprofits. Okay. There were some questions from the audience that I agree with in terms of how do you make sure nonprofits are not essentially just proselytizing and getting tax-free money for that. There was discussion about community policing and how to get community and APD more in line so that the police department is actually working for us and not against us, or at least not being perceived that way. Miami-Dade, the county, was listed as, from her, cited as a model for how to deal with homelessness. I do not yet know what that looks like, but I like the fact that she has a model that she wants to reference. So I will look into that and be posting some relevant information in the description of this video. She mentioned wanting to increase the number of officers up to 1,600. How many do we have now? If anybody knows or can link me to a source of information that's more up to date, please let me know and just do my research for me. There was also questions about at what point can or should the Albuquerque Police Department graduate or be promoted from the Department of Justice oversight. I get the impression that she's in favor of pushing towards not having that oversight anymore. Do you agree or disagree? I'm undecided. What else did she mention? Also, I'll try and keep this short. Oh, questions from the audience. A number of people were saying, hey, how come the Northeast Heights doesn't deal with more homeless people, have a gateway center of their own, things along those lines. I didn't think she had a whole lot to say constructively there. A lot of, like, what can you do? You are somewhat hamstrung by the constituents in your district. And also, man, if you go up there, you need a car. The buses, they suck. Infrastructure sucks. That's why a lot of this stuff happens in the International District and downtown. There's at least services there. I'm not saying it should all be concentrated there, but a number of factors are involved, in my very not humble opinion, as to how you can even have services and distribute the essentially the liability, if we're going to be kind of gross about it, of people who need extra help and are essentially homeless now, have not enough employment, potentially have drug issues, all of those things. How do you distribute that around the city so it's not just slums and concentrations of despair? Tough question, but I think it involves more than just let's take a motel and turn it into a inexpensive or subsidized living situation. It's more like, is there transit? Are there rehab programs? It's a whole ecosystem that you have to create. So I sympathize with her in some regards, because I don't think the Northeast Heights, one, they don't want it, and two, they definitely don't have it. Other places do. How do you proceed forward? All right. I went over 3 minutes. I'll try and keep the next one short. The second presenter was Abby Foster, District 4, north of Montgomery, straddling both sides of I-25 and going up north. Much like Idalia, she also talked about APD and the Department of Justice. Abby, who is a practicing lawyer, I believe, was mentioning that, gave me the impression that she is less on board with the idea that APD should be free from the Department of Justice entanglement. Interesting. I'm curious to know more as I form my opinion there. She also talked quite a bit about homelessness, housing, and specifically using the phrase housing first. Uh, I am a nurse, and I used to very briefly work with healthcare for the homeless, and they also had a housing first model. I am a fan of that approach, and I'm curious to see how that will be implemented within the city of Albuquerque. There was mention of fully funding the West Side Emergency Shelter and the Gateway Health Hub. The Gateway Health Hub is in my neck of the woods. The West Side Emergency Shelter is in no one's neck of the woods. It's way the hell out there. If you haven't been there, maybe check it out or subscribe to my channel because I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have a little bit more information of what the reality looks like on the ground. I've been there as a healthcare provider a little bit, and you know, in a tough situation, you have to make concessions. But man, that place is rough. Is it better than nothing? Maybe, but it's way out there. Tune in for a more in-depth look at that. I am not convinced that it's a good idea to continue to fund and to expand the West Side Emergency Shelter. I would like to see that moved into the actual city somewhere. Hey, if we're looking to move, there is also discussion about NIMBYism. Where else in the city will this be embraced? Right now, there are probably five. Last time I was out there, there were 400 to 500 people at the West Side Emergency Shelter. It's a lot of people with a lot of needs. Where could we serve them better within the city? And where could we have employees have an easier time getting there? I am a nurse. It would have been a huge pain in the ass to make my way all the way out to the West Side Emergency Shelter. We can do better, right? There was also at the end some discussion about safe open spaces, and if someone is essentially homeless but they have a vehicle they can sleep in, where do they do that without getting hassled, without getting their car broken into or shuffled along by police? It was mentioned that they can do that out at the West Side Emergency Shelter. Probably. I don't know if that's officially recognized, but I wouldn't doubt it. There are also, as far as I know, 2 safe open spaces. I tried to see them in person, but they're kind of tucked away, and then there was a lot of contention in the news about whether or not they were even going to come to pass. I've tried to lay eyes on, but I've never actually done it. Hopefully that just means they're well secured and not just randos like me can walk up and see what's going on. So, interesting discussion. Thanks to Abby for presenting. Abel Otero also presented. He is running for District 6 City Council. That's my district. I have a lot of interest in that race, obviously. He had quite a story, quite the redemption arc, if you will, in his life, going from having drug addiction, becoming incarcerated, being homeless, to going to eventually owning his own business as a barber, and really, it sounds like trying to be a productive, a mentor within the community. I really like that, and I think it shows a lot of promise. His personal connection with a lot of the problems that everybody is kind of recognizing as problems, but doesn't have a clear idea of how to address. I think his personal experience brings a lot to the table. And so I was really interested to hear what he had to say. Beyond just his personal story, I do want to try and reach out and talk to him about more concrete ideas, like what's happening with how do we get more funding to Gateway? What are the timelines? What can we do within our district? Certainly there's going to be inter-district cooperation, but within the international district in District 6, what's he going to bring that's different than the other candidates? So I'm hoping to interview him just as I try to interview all of the candidates for District 6. I will put a link in the description to my existing questions and answers and to future interviews that I hope to obtain and post online. Last up was Ronaldo Tome Warito. If I'm saying any of these names wrong, somebody please call me out. Just let me know. I try. I have the most notes on her, but I'll try and keep it brief. She started out really talking a lot about the importance of data and how to use data to help guide decisions. I like that. I'm a former computer programmer. I like some data. So that really got my attention. There was discussion about book bannings and how some people are trying to claim it's not happening here, despite the fact that Rio Rancho, it's certainly a contentious topic out there. I don't have kids. I'm kind of out of the loop sometimes on this. I attend these meetings to try and be less out of the loop. I don't like the idea of book banning. I'm preaching to the choir if you're coming from the drinking liberally group, probably. What else do we got going on? School board elections. Pretty big impact. She obviously has a lot of passion and a lot of time in the system. She seemed to be very knowledgeable. I was impressed. I also had a chance to speak to her just spontaneously as we were waiting to order food in line. Really engaging conversation. It was a pleasure. Since I'm not in her district, I will look into it more about whether or not a school board is up for grabs where I live, and can I vote? And I'll just keep talking to people to see if they are aware of how contentious the school board elections have become and what's at stake right now. That's my little contribution. What else can I say? A lot of details that could be potentially talked about, but this video is already long enough. So thanks for watching. If you have comments, criticisms, suggestions, email me, leave a comment, whatever. Thanks.